Some people spend their whole lives chasing success, never realizing it was quietly waiting in the place they left behind. The town of Ravello was like a dream carved into the cliffs of Italy, olive trees on hills, terracotta rooftops, and waves whispering secrets to the wind. It was the kind of place where time walked instead of running. The streets smelled of lemon blossoms and old stories. Luca Moretti was born here, in a house filled with clay dust and love. His father, Matteo, was a master potter, not rich, but respected. His hand spoke with the wheel. His silence taught more than words. He made pots that seemed to carry the warmth of the sun, crafted not just with skill, but with soul. But Luca, he wanted more than clay. He wanted significance. Not small-town praise, but big-city success. His heart beat to the rhythm of ambition. Papa, the world's moving fast. I can't live and die in a workshop. Matteo smiled gently, dipping his fingers in water, shaping a vase as if molding peace itself. Clay, listen, son. If you rush it, it breaks. Life is no different. But Luca had already tuned out, dreaming of Milan neon lights and boardrooms. He couldn't understand how his father seemed content with the same old, wheel spinning day after day. Then the flood came, one violent night. The storm tore through the coast. The waves crashed like monsters. Lightning split the sky. By morning, the Moretti workshop was mud. Years of art washed away in one cruel evening. Luca stood soaked and shaking, staring at the ruin. This is why I have to leave. Matteo didn't argue. He simply picked up a broken pot, filled it with soil, and placed a tiny rosemary cutting inside. Even broken things can grow, he whispered. But Luca had already turned his back. The city was calling. His heart ached for something else, something bigger. Milan was everything Ravello wasn't. Fast, sharp, cold. Luca rose quickly. He studied business, interior design. Within 5 years, he was designing luxury ceramics for hotels and penthouses. He lived in a high-rise apartment with espresso machines and sensor lights. His suits were tailored. His emails carried weight. But when he looked at his hands, he missed the stains of earth. At night, he remembered the smell of clay after rain. He remembered the wheel, the silence. His father's words that used to seem so simple now echoed like wisdom. But still, he pushed those thoughts away. He had clients, contracts. His name was getting recognized. Then one night at an international design expo, everything changed. Luca presented his latest line. Sleek, symmetrical, flawless ceramics produced in a German factory. The crowd was impressed. A Japanese designer named Kenji, quiet and wise-looking, observed the pieces for a long time. "These are beautiful," he finally said, "but they lack heartbeat." Luca smiled politely. "They're machine-crafted, perfect to the millimeter." Kenji nodded. "Yes, that's the problem. You can feel the absence of human hands. Art without heart is just decoration." Luca laughed nervously, but those words clung to him. No heartbeat. 2 months later, a letter arrived. Matteo Moretti had passed peacefully in his sleep. Luca stared at the letter for hours. The sound of Milan buzzed around him. Traffic, phones, deals. But inside, he felt nothing but silence. For the first time in years, he questioned everything. Was he building a life or escaping one? The next day, he booked a ticket to Ravello. Ravello hadn't changed much. The sea still shimmered. The air still carried lemons and memory. But Luca had changed. The workshop stood still, quiet, coated in dust. It looked smaller than he remembered. He stepped inside. There, sunlight streamed through cracks in the ceiling. Everything was where it had been left. The old wheel, the broken kiln, the wooden shelves. But something new had appeared. Pots, dozens of them, broken ones, each filled with soil. Blooming, herbs, flowers, even a tiny olive tree. Each had a note, written in Matteo's delicate script. Purpose outlives perfection. The world breaks you only to teach you where you're strongest. Even mud can hold light. Luca fell to his knees. Years of ambition cracked into grief. He pressed his forehead to the earth, the way he had as a child, when he still believed the clay could speak. He stayed, not because he planned to, but because his heart wouldn't let him leave. He cleaned the studio, repaired the kiln, reopened the doors, not for profit, but for people. Children came to learn. Tourists wandered in, curious. Old villagers came to remember. Luca began shaping again, slowly, clumsily at first, then with grace. Not to sell, to share. He launched a small brand, Terra Viva, Living Earth. It wasn't sleek, it wasn't fast, but it spoke. Every pot carried a story, a scar, a soul. Ironically, that's when his work truly went viral. Not when it was perfect, but when it was real. One warm afternoon, a girl in the studio looked at a newly fired pot. "Why is it crooked?" she asked. Luca smiled. "Because life is, and that's what makes it beautiful." She laughed and returned to her own little bowl. The wheel spun. The cycle continued. In the background, rosemary bloomed in the cracked pot his father had planted years ago. When you change how you think, the world changes how it feels. Sometimes what breaks you also opens you. And sometimes the success you chase is waiting where you began. Moral of the story: true success isn't what you earn, it's what you carry forward. When your thinking shifts, your entire life begins to bloom, even from broken places.